Welcome back to the Ronald Reagan Library and Museum in Simi Valley, California. I'm at O'Keefe, CBS News, inside what they call the spin room. It's going to get crowded, going to get noisy, going to get smelly in here in the coming minutes as members of the various campaigns descend on the room and try to convince us reporters why it is they think their guy did, or their woman, did well tonight. We will be hearing from some of those representatives in the coming minutes, but the exchange tonight, the second so far of the 2024 presidential campaign cycle for Republicans, focused a lot on the economy, on China, on border security, on issues of education, and on the man who wasn't here, the 46th president of the United States, Donald Trump, repeatedly called out by contenders most eager to egg him on and take him on a stage like this, saying, why wasn't he here tonight? Chris Christie calling him Donald Duck. Ron DeSantis suggesting that he's not here to face the music on issues like abortion rights and government spending. We'll see whether the former president responds in the coming days, but already his campaign tonight is calling this a boring, somewhat inconsequential affair. We will see whether voters respond as they did to some extent after the first debate by rewarding some of those in the middle of the pack of the others with better support. And the front runner was not here. He was in the suburbs of Detroit, Michigan, which is where we find Chief Election and Campaign Correspondent Robert Costa, who is working late in that time zone tonight as we are out here. Bob, give us a sense of how this went. There are some Democrats tonight, at least, suggesting it was a low-energy speech. How do you assess it? And ultimately, who showed up to hear from him?
Ed, it's great to be with you. Only wish I could be there in California talking politics with you. But it was intriguing to be here in Michigan tonight to see former President Trump address union workers, some non-union workers at a non-union facility. It was a rainy night here in the Detroit area. Trump was speaking about his own message to working voters, trying to make an overture to them as he works to consolidate his base in the Republican contest. And he also looks ahead to a possible general election rematch against President Joe Biden. And during this rainy night, there was Trump for over an hour talking about some of the themes that go back to his campaign in 2016 and, of course, to his 2020 re-election attempt. This was Trump going back to some of his key themes, key points on trade, on immigration, and all but ignoring the debate. And so you had this front runner in the Republican presidential race talking about his own campaign, making claims, expressing grievances, all while the rest of the field was with you there in California having its own debate. A bit of a surreal scene that was also a microcosm of where things stand in the Republican race.
Bob, let's take a listen to some of what Trump had to say to those workers there in Michigan.
Joe Biden claims to be the most pro-union president in history. Nonsense. Hopefully your leaders at United Auto Workers will endorse Donald Trump. Because, you know, standard history for years and decades and years and years, they always endorse a Democrat.
Okay, so that was a sampling of what the former president had to say. Bob, though, I know you've been in touch with operatives on all sides of this debate. You've been in touch with other donors, people watching the debate here in California tonight. Give us a sense of their impressions, what they liked, what they're concerned about.
It was the full spectrum tonight in terms of reporting. I began the day, Ed, talking to union members from the UAW on the picket line here in Detroit and in the Detroit area. They were marching outside, holding signs, and they were saying that they were going to hold the line, as President Biden urged them to do just a day earlier. So you have all of the economic pain here in Michigan front and center with this auto strike. And then later in the day, you have all of the political pain inside of the Republican Party, at least in the anti-Trump quarters, very visible in the flurry of text messages I was getting during this debate from donors who have a lot of angst, seasoned Republicans who are concerned that while former Ambassador Nikki Haley and some other favorites of theirs had a solid night in their view, they didn't have enough of a breakout to really have a moment.
We'll see how that is assessed by the voters in the coming hours and days. Robert Costa staying up late for us tonight in the Motor City. We appreciate it. We'll talk to you again in the morning. Joining me here in the spin room, a guy who is a professional spinner, at least he was employed to be such, James Uthmeyer, who is campaign manager for Florida Governor Ron DeSantis. Good to see you in person.
Thanks for having me.
What did you guys make of tonight?
Listen, Ron DeSantis delivers. He showed up. He was the only candidate on that stage that looked like a president. He's the strongest leader on that stage. Every single question, time after time. The neat thing was Florida has delivered on whatever the issue was, whether it's prohibiting TikTok in schools, banning CCP purchases of lands in the state of Florida, making Florida the #1 state economy in the nation, record-setting tax relief for families. You name it, he's done it. Anything Ron DeSantis has ever said he's going to do, he's done it, and then some. So no spin is necessary. He's the strongest leader in this race, and it's a shame that Donald Trump is not there to show the American people his vision and to defend his record.
Well, that's what I wanted to get into, because if anyone has listened to a Ron DeSantis stump speech, been to one of his events, seen interviews he does, likes to talk about the record. But the one thing he did tonight that was far different from last time is he did call out the former president for not being here. There's an eagerness to do so, isn't there?
Yeah, there is. Look, American families are hurting. Gas is now up over $5. Well, here in California, over $6 a gallon. People that are buying their first home are now paying over 8% on a mortgage. Household goods are going up 40 to 60%. That is because of reckless spending in D.C., and we have both Democrats and Republicans, including the former president, to blame for it. Over $7 trillion added to the national deficit. There's just no excuse for that. In Florida, Ron DeSantis has operated in a very fiscally responsible way. He's pulled out his red pen, and he has done veto after veto after veto, over $6 billion of legislative appropriations. He's sent right on back. If only the elites in D.C. would operate the same way. But if he gets to the White House, you better believe that's what he's going to do.
Our CBS News polling out of Iowa and New Hampshire released last night suggests he's the only other guy in double digits in Iowa, closest to Donald Trump in New Hampshire. I spoke with your pollster earlier today who says that's where your numbers generally show you, comfortably in second place, essentially alone there. How do you sustain that? And how do you erase this perception that you were sinking if our polling at least suggests you're still there?
Listen, we've got the most resources and the most robust operation of any candidate out there, including the former president. We do not elect presidents based on polls, especially in September. We're out there. We're talking to every single voter, one by one by one. That's what the people of Iowa expect. They want to get right up close, ask their questions, and hear true honesty. And unfortunately, with the former president, people are getting confused. Who is this guy? This is not the Donald Trump from 2016 saying pro-life bills are terrible things. People in Iowa, they don't like to hear that. Ron DeSantis, he delivers on everything he says he will do.
Now, until recently, you were the governor's chief of staff down in Tallahassee.
That's right.
Took on this campaign manager only a few weeks ago.
That's right.
Having never run a campaign, at least of this size before, you enjoying it?
I am. Yeah, we've got a great team. It's a lot of fun.
Enjoying the right word for it?
Enjoying is the right word. Here you get to take the gloves off a little bit and have some fun. But yeah, we're having a great time. We got a good team. We're built for the long haul. We're going to be there when other candidates fall off the stage, and that needs to happen.
And remind us now, where does the governor go next?
The governor's going to be in California for a couple days. He'll be back in Florida, and then you'll see him in Iowa next weekend.
All righty. James Uthmeyer,
thanks a lot.
for stopping
Appreciate
by.
it. Yep.
Good to meet you in person finally. We'll do it again.
Likewise. See you again.
All righty. Take care. We will continue coverage of the second Republican presidential debate from the Ronald Reagan Library and Museum here in beautiful Simi Valley, California. Stay with us. You're streaming CBS News. Welcome back to the Ronald Reagan Library and Museum, site of the second GOP presidential debate. 7 contenders on stage, one big, one missing. Others have been dismissed, in essence, because they failed to make the cut. One of those who had one of the more notable nights was former South Carolina governor and the UN ambassador, Nikki Haley. We're joined now by one of her senior advisors, Kirsten Kukowski. Good to see you again.
Yeah, thanks for
You were
having me.
reminding me that 8 years ago, this is a sense of how Republican politics works. 8 years ago, you would have been here with Scott Walker.
Yeah.
And it's a
crazy.
reminder that these things are long, and can change on a dime.
Long and short at the same time, right? I mean, who would have thought that 8 years ago that this would have been the last debate for Scott Walker? Everyone, he was, soaring #1 in the front of, middle of the stage, and this was his last debate. So things can change, on a dime.
And how do we think the governor did tonight?
I think Nikki Haley did wonderful today. I think she's consistently showing that she has the fight in her, and she's able to get out there and spar with people and talk about the issues. She's the only one that had an economic plan when the economic questions came up. She's the only one that was holding, Vivek and others accountable on foreign policy. She took Ron DeSantis to task on energy and drilling and fracking, and I think she did wonderful tonight. Again, second debate.
There's a line that's going to get repeated a lot where she said something like, every time I hear you, I get dumber, or I get stupider, or I feel stupider. Thing is, some pointed out, there's an awfully nice blurb on the back of one of Vivek Ramaswamy's books, written by Nikki Haley, saying he's a voice we need to hear from and, essential to the conversation. Suddenly things have changed now that they're running against each other for president?
Well, I think you saw this in the last debate and this debate. I think that his foreign policy gets under her skin, and rightfully so. I think that this is, I think he wants to make this a divide in the party, and the reality is, he does not understand that giving China a win is giving Russia a win and vice versa. And so I think she's comfortable using her foreign policy experience to make sure that he's being held accountable for his position, his positions. Going out there and talking about TikTok and that he's going to end it when he is being president, but he's out there using it now and not understanding what the foreign policy implications of that are right now. I think voters need to know. So is he an interesting part of the conversation? Yes. Does he need to be held accountable on foreign policy? Absolutely. And you can tell she's able to do that.
Where is she headed next?
It's a really good question. I do not know where she's headed next, but I imagine it's either Iowa or New Hampshire, right? She's basically living in those states.
We should point out you're a senior advisor in the sense that you work for her super PAC, so you don't necessarily keep track of the campaign's work. You guys, though, are continuing to spend a lot of money on her behalf on the airwaves.
We are. We're actually up with a new ad right now. We just came out with yesterday, talking about how we need term limits, that we need accountability from Joe Biden, and we need age limits, mental competency tests, all things that I think right now point to a dysfunctional Washington that we're all going to see over the weekend. Can they get this budget deal or the spending deal done? And so I think our advertising is going to point that out, and how Nikki can be part of the solution in Washington.
All right, Kirsten Krukowski, good to see you. Thank you for being here.
Appreciate it.
And a reminder that things can change on a dime in Republican presidential politics. I am told that somewhere else in this crowded, noisy room is our political director, Finn Gomez, standing by with somebody. Finn, enlighten us. Who do you got?
Hey, Ed. Yes, we are joined here by Chris LaSavidia, who is a senior campaign official with the Trump campaign. He was the former president and frontrunner, was sort of the target of several of his competitors. He was not here. He skipped it. He went to Michigan instead, of course. But, your reaction, Chris Christie called him Donald Duck for ducking questions. Ron DeSantis basically called him out for missing in action and said he needed to answer for some of his comments on abortion. Just your response, Chris.
This debate, first and foremost, the debate, I guess you want to call it that, which was nothing more than a shouting match. It was 2 hours of really inconsequential blabber that did not and will not change the trajectory of the Republican primary for president. The RNC should probably seriously consider whether they want to continue doing these kinds of debates, because at the end of the day, the longer we endure these kinds of what I think are just really kind of funny, the more and more people will be doing the bidding of the Biden administration. But look, at the end of the day, this conversation with the attacks levied by, I'm going to call them attacks, Ron DeSantis said MIA twice. Okay, Chris Christie, the guy's polling in the single digits. He talks about how he was a great governor. He doesn't tell you that when he left, he was the most unpopular governor in the country's history. So, these are folks that are nipping at the heels of the front runner. They're nowhere close. As a matter of fact, if you took the combined polling weight of every single candidate it on stage tonight and paired it up against Donald Trump, combined they'd be losing against Trump by 20 points. So, I mean, these guys aren't even worth their time.
But not worth your time. Do you think he's going to show up in Miami, the next debate?
You know, the president said that he is not attending the debates, and that was plural. So I'm assuming that also includes, and it will include Miami. It's not going to be here.
It's not going to be in Miami.
Yeah.
Okay.
Correct.
But do you think that by Nikki Haley and others going after him, that it gives them the potential to rise in the polls? I know there's a wide margin right now, but does this give them, his rivals, DeSantis and others, the opportunity to attack him? If he's not hitting back, is this a missed opportunity?
Well, I think what people want is they want TV entertainment, and you know the president is about providing a win for Republicans and going after Joe Biden. So that's the focus, and that's the campaign's focus. In terms of, I don't think there's anyone that would say that Donald Trump doesn't punch back. But again, at the same time, when you think about the combined polling weight of these folks compared to the president, I mean, they're going to exchange numbers amongst themselves. They're not cutting into the president's polling position in Iowa in the support that look. The Republican primary voters have made their decision, and their decision is Donald Trump. That's who they want to beat and go after. So everything else is just the sideshow.
Yeah, but it's 111 days into the Iowa caucuses.
I know.
Cast a vote yet.
I know.
So, well, Chris, thank you very much for joining us. Appreciate it. And Ed, back to you.
Well, a headline I hear there, Finn, is he wasn't at the first one, he wasn't at the second one, he won't be at the third one. And Trump campaign at least calls this all, quote, inconsequential blabber. Obviously, other campaigns disagree. Stay with us. More analysis on the other side of this break as you continue streaming CBS News. All right. Welcome back to the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library and Museum. There's a crowd around us. And you know why there's a crowd around us? Because Finn Gomez is
I'm here?
ladies and gentlemen, the CBS News political director. You were inside the hall tonight.
I was.
So you got a slightly different perspective.
I did.
Your final thoughts on how tonight went, how it might steer this campaign going towards November when they meet again?
I think it was a fight for number two, and I think Nikki Haley, who was expected to be the target of many of the attacks from her rivals, kind of turned the tables and she went after her closest rivals, which I think was a notable move. And I think that let's see if that even furthers her momentum. I think she had a good night. I think she had a few breakout moments in an otherwise kind of a messy night, frankly, among these Republicans.
The only headline is we're putting together a piece, for example, for tomorrow morning's CBS Mornings.
Right.
Newspaper editors are sitting here tonight thinking, what was the headline? The headline was, while they didn't do it in the first round, tonight they were calling out Donald Trump saying, where are you? Why aren't you here to face us? What are you so afraid of? Chris Christie did it. Mike Pence did it. Ron DeSantis did it.
Yeah. And, I mean, you're Nikki Haley did it. I mean, frankly, Ron DeSantis, especially went after him, especially on that, on those comments that he made on abortion from a week ago, which many like top Republicans I spoke to felt that is an opening, a vulnerability that he has that others can go and attack. And we saw that. Tonight.
And either way, Trump team says, like it or not, he's not showing up for the third debate.
We just heard the senior aide Chris LaSavita just tell us that he's not showing up in Miami, and he said that the RNC should put an end to the primary debates.
Yeah, well, it's only September. We got time. What are you looking forward to then in the coming days? What gives us we got fundraising deadline coming, right?
Fundraising deadline's coming up in a couple days, so it's going to be an aggressive push to see who's in and who has the fuel to continue their race.
Cash on hand, not how much raised, right?
Huge.
Because we're hitting that men from boys, girls from women moment here, where the big ones can continue on, the others got to peter out.
I wouldn't be surprised if the field window's down in the next few weeks. Frankly.
So we had 7 this time. Let's see if we're at 5 or 6 in Miami in November.
Yes.
All righty. Finn Gomez, CBS News political director. Big team here across the LA area helped put this together. Our coverage throughout the day on CBS News Streaming. We'll have more tomorrow here on the streaming network, on your local CBS station as well. For the bookers turned bouncers, producers, and crews here in Los Angeles to help put this all together, I'm Ed O'Keefe, CBS News in Simi Valley. Thank you for watching, and please continue streaming CBS News.